CrossFit course I've ever taken. I definitely learned a lot about their methodology, which we'll go into. There's a lot of things that they taught me that doesn't really relate to what we do, so I'm not going to discuss it. But another time, this is a long presentation in terms of there's a lot of stuff to talk about. If we got to programming, we can get to programming in another time. Before we start, at CrossFit Gymnastics, it's about mastering body positions and shapes. Shapes is the ability to control, manipulate, and move the body in different ways. So like, for example, from the muscle up, you guys know what a muscle up is? Everybody does? Yeah. To an explosive tuck, that's all gymnastics is body weight based. The body is used to express the full range of motion. Making shapes is the fundamental skill of gymnasts. Understanding the basic body positions and shapes is key to understanding and mastering the sport. When we talk about shapes, it's very interesting because I've never, in my strength training history, have thought about shapes as a way of thinking about somebody lifting. But when you think about a bent over row, what is a right bent over row and what is a wrong bent over row, right? That's a shape. You're looking at a shape. So when you talk to people that are used to doing gymnastics, they only talk about shapes. Hey, get into a hollow shape, get into a round shape, get into an arch shape. So it's a very interesting, different way of thinking about it, which I thought was very helpful for me coaching. Once I start thinking about shapes and angles, I start thinking about, okay, how can I relate that to the client, right? So active tissue is the ability to contract muscles, helping to maintain shapes as an entirety to help remain as one solid unit. This is also related to the bottom with tension. Tension as a word can be defined as a state of being stretched tight, and the opposite would be slackness and looseness. Tension is what I've found in the past year that if we can help a client create tension earlier in any movement, it works out better for us. Push-ups and TRX rows are one of the biggest things we can create tension on. And this translates over to pull-ups, to anything really, because if you're pushing through your whole body, it's a lot easier than you have slack because you're breaking at some part of the chain. Hollow is a position used to create stability characterized by strong midline contraction with an active tissue from toes to fingers. Remember that a hollow position is a straight line with a posterior pelvic tilt. So I've made the mistake of the past year of thinking about hollow as rounding my shoulders forward a lot, and I described it a lot to clients. The way that this course led me to believe is hollow is you're in a straight line from head to toe, and all you're doing is you're posteriorly tilting your pelvis, so you're pushing your butt in as hard as you can, and then you're also tucking your ribcage in, which for some people, that might turn their shoulders inward. Not everybody, right? So everybody's hollow might look differently depending on shoulder mobility. Hollow is definitely a position we want to learn because it's the number one key that you use for gymnastics. And we'll go over that, what that looks like. Mobility is movement around the joint. That's very important in what we're going to talk about. And you have active and passive flexibility. Active flexibility is contracting opposite muscles to stretch or hold a position. What I can think of is if I squeeze my tricep right now, my bicep's going to feel a stretch. So that's an active flexibility. Passive flexibility is stretching a muscle that does not require contraction of opposite muscles. So this would be passive flexibility, right? How far can it stretch? Because I'm not using my triceps. But if I squeeze my triceps, that becomes active flexibility, right? So that's all related to, there's a lot more definitions, but for now, we're just gonna keep it to that. So this is one of the charts that I wanna give you guys that I have, is still printing. But to talk about gymnastics the CrossFit way, we have to talk a little bit further into CrossFit methodology. And CrossFit at the end of the day is just a strength and conditioning program. It's a different way of doing things and getting your fitness done. But what they do is they do a couple different interesting thoughts, and they do a needs analysis. For us, it's basically an assessment. So the way they describe that is understanding a client's needs and requirements in a sport or life and designing their training program around the discrepancies between the two. Essentially what, yeah. So I think everybody gets one of each.
You can't see it, is what I'm saying.
Oh, you can't see it? Can you see this one? As long as you can see this one, it matters. Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. So as long as you can see this, you can write it on your own. So what I like about their definition of a needs analysis or an assessment in our end is they're seeing the discrepancy between the sport and their life and building a program around what they have to do to achieve that difference. Obviously, this is a class usually for the most part, so you can't design around everybody, but you can outfit it for us, we can't outfit it based on our needs and goals because we have the availability to. As you can see in the pyramid, this is the CrossFit pyramid that they believe in. Nutrition is the foundation of everything. Without nutrition, everything crumbles. Gymnastics is the second thing. And gymnastics, in their definition, is just bodyweight movements. So a bodyweight squat essentially would be a gymnastics movement because it's bodyweight. According to CrossFit, how you move your human body through space or gymnastics must come before metabolic conditioning, as gymnastics is the second foundation of their pyramid in their methodology and their basis of movement biomechanics. So the goal of CrossFit is to achieve fitness through intensity. That is the definition of CrossFit, is achieve fitness through intensity. So the higher intensity, the more fit you are, ideally. Without good nutrition, you have nothing, but we won't go over that today. If someone has poor biomechanics or poor movement, it can lower someone's ability to achieve metabolic conditioning or increase risk of injury. So if somebody has, so gymnastics being bodyweight movements, if somebody has a poor squat, you can't achieve a higher metabolic conditioning if you have a poor squat, because if I'm only using this range of motion, my heart rate most likely won't get up, right? So this pyramid leads us to the next two pyramids, and they depend on each other. So without mobility, you have nothing. So if you can't get your knee past your hip, you probably can't squat. So you have to address that first, right? Because I'm not going to have somebody squat like this. What?
You can't squat past 90, you can squat.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is, for example, on our left side, this is their pyramids, and on our left side, the top is strength. So if I have poor mobility, I can't squat past 90, I'm making myself less stable, therefore making myself less strong, or at least I'm strong in that range of motion. I can't get stronger without it, right? But for me to get, once I have strength, I can go into great biomechanics, I can increase my conditioning, therefore increasing my intensity, right? So I can achieve intensity a lot of different ways, but there's things and steps below that I want to achieve. And the number one thing they say is mobility. So I guess, let me ask you this, can you be too strong and can you be too skilled at something? It's just a rhetorical question. What do you guys think?
Be too strong?
Can you be too strong? Just in general. You don't have to get into nitty gritty.
I mean, I think so, yeah.
Yeah?
I think you can be too strong and less mobile, for sure.
Okay.
I think of like bodybuilders who can't even extend their arms.
You can't extend their arms?
It's the bottom, right? So I don't think you can be too strong if you have the bottom.
So if you start with this chart and you follow from the bottom up, can you be too strong if you follow this chart?
No.
Right? Because you're taking care of the other things first. If you started with pure strength, that would be another issue, but strength's not at the bottom of this chart, it's at the top. So you have to start with your foundation, and that's mobility, right? So in this case, and I'm talking about their methodology, that's what I'm going over, right? Not my personal thoughts, but their methodology. In their pyramid, mobility comes before strength, therefore you cannot be too strong because you have your stability and mobility below you, so you're good, right? Can you be too skilled? Can there be such a thing as like, have enough skills, I can't progress, that's it, that's the end of it? No, right? There's no way. You can always progress something. You can make it slower, make it harder, make it more weight, whatever it is. You can always progress. And one big thing about intensity, by simplifying exercises, you can achieve a high intensity. So let's say somebody comes in and they don't know how to do a barbell back squat. Are they going to be able to create more intensity with a bodyweight squat or a barbell back squat? Bodyweight squat, because they have more history with it. They're more comfortable with it. So they can push it a little bit harder, right? And remember, at the end of the day, CrossFit on its own is how much can I achieve intensity for fitness, right? This is another great thing that I learned from them. I've never heard of this wellness continuum. They call it a wellness continuum. And they started paraphrasing this to almost anything. But essentially, you have sickness on one end, fitness on the other end, and you have wellness in the middle. Let's say you take all your tests, you're going to fit into one of these, right? Usually you're fit into wellness, fitness, or sickness. So this is their way of saying, essentially, if you're well, you're right in the middle. You're between fitness and wellness, but you can always be fit or you can always be sick. But no matter what, it's not one or the other. You're in a continuum. So you're going to fall into one of those places, right? This could also be mental strength or mental conditioning, whatever you want to call it. And I want to very briefly talk about it and remind you guys to always tell clients to talk positively, right? So let's say this is negative frame mindset, this is positive mindset. When clients talk about themselves negative, they're always going to think negatively, always, right? So a big thing is to slow down you don't want negative self-talk in the gym. If you hear it, you need to address it right away. Squander it. Try to make it so every time they're in here, they're only talking positive thoughts. Hey, I'm stupid. It's gonna come back to at home. Hey, I'm stupid. I'm gonna think of myself as stupid all the time. If you're able to change that vicious cycle, we're able to start getting towards the right side of the column, right? Positive thoughts. Definitely something that we can think of. And then we can relate this to movement, right? So we have injury on one side, master the movement on the other side, and okay movement in the middle. And a really cool thing that they basically said is, let's say somebody's really fit, let's say a CrossFit Games athlete, they're over here, they're master the movement. When they start their workout, it's a continuum, right? So we're gonna go back and forth. When they start their workout, they're fresh. They have complete control of 100, let's call it 100 back squats at 225 pounds. On rep number 1, they're gonna have complete mastery of the movement. Let's say we get, Gail Wiley, and we put her at 100 squats, not even back squats. She's probably gonna start her okay movement and fall down to injury. But if somebody is very experienced and has a high fitness level, they're gonna start the first rep of the 100 squats here, and they're gonna slowly decline to the middle, maybe even towards that side, but they started higher up in the continuum. So your fitness level and your biomechanics, your experience, your range, it's all gonna be on this side. As you get more into your workout, it can fall over, right? And the idea is to stay away from this side. So the more we build somebody's fitness up, they're gonna be on this side, the better is when they get tired, they'll still be in okay movement rather than starting an okay movement, and when they're tired, they're gonna be in shitty movement or injury prone. That's a great way of thinking. I've never seen that before. And I was like, wow, that really opens my head into like, somebody falls in the middle, it's not black and white, it's a lot of gray areas in between, and where do they fall in the continuum? Especially as somebody starts really decreasing, like Gail Wiley at rep number 2 is gonna be tired. Somebody in CrossFit Games athlete, rep 50 is when it's getting tired, right? All right, so let's go into a couple of rules that they said. So rule number 1 is static before dynamic. Rule number 2, dynamic before kipping. Does anybody know what a kipping is? So kipping is just doing a dynamic movement with momentum, right? So you can do a kipping. You've seen CrossFit related with kipping pull-ups, right? You're kipping yourself. Wait, what?
That's the only way I know that term, is kipping pull-ups.
Yeah, usually that's the only thing they use. They use kipping pull-ups. They have other things that they use kipping for, but kipping ring pull-ups, kipping butterfly pull-ups, kipping a lot of different type of pull-ups, kipping muscle-ups. They have a lot of different ones. We're not gonna go to kipping because we're not really into kipping. We're number 1 trying to get into just people doing dynamic movements, right? Before even kipping. I'm gonna use pull-ups as an example. Static pull-up. In their methodology, they believe pull-up hold would be a thing that you're doing first. You're gonna get really good at your pull-up hold, or hanging, right? Because that's 2 ends of the movement, or in the middle of the range. I'm holding that. Let's say I do 1 set here for 10 seconds, I do 1 set here for 10 seconds, and I do 1 set here for 10 seconds, right? So that's static before dynamic. I'm holding it still before I even attempt to do a negative or a full range pull-up. After that, I'm gonna attempt a negative pull-up, right? And then after that, I'm gonna attempt a full pull-up, that's my dynamic, and then I can go into my kipping pull-up. They don't ever think you should do kipping pull-ups before you do pull-ups. And that's where a lot of things go wrong with CrossFit, and some coaches might do that. And it's like they start teaching because it's easier to teach a kipping pull-up because you need less strength to do it, you're using momentum, you're cheating, but according to this methodology, you should not be able to do that. You should always go strength first, you're strength biased. So you're always gonna be able to do 10 pull-ups, and then you'll be able to do maybe 1 kipping pull-up. Strength is imperative to proper form. Proper form is imperative to body awareness and control. So to obtain the proper form, we must have the prerequisite strength through the full range of motion, start to finish, like we talked about that pyramid. Any lack of strength through a range of motion will compromise the position that causes forces to be sent the wrong directions. So, to present mastery in all our movements, we must have body awareness and control. To gain this body awareness and control, we must execute all actions with proper form, right? Any questions on those first 2 rules? So just remember, static before dynamic, dynamic before kipping, right? It's pretty self-explanatory, and I think, like, it makes sense when I read it, but I wanna make sure everybody understands it. Rule number 3, build an isometric base. So it's almost like rule number 1, but it's just furtherly stated. Rule number 4, use eccentric loading as a strength of positional development tool. That's just like what we talked about in the pull-up example. Spotting is key when doing anything gymnastics. In our case, any exercises that is not assisted. So gymnastics is always calling for a spot. In our case, we always want to assist anybody, either is not gymnastics related. And remember, gymnastics to them is body weight movements. So an air squat, you should be spotting somebody just in case they don't know how to do it. This is where we start getting really cool because they have their own flow of charts, and I'm going to show you guys what it is. So in that black graph we're going to talk about next is there's three things. There's coaching cues, coaching constraints, and coaching interventions. And they're all used as movement developments, right? Coaching cues are directed at the athlete to make a positional change by using verbal communication. So you're speaking to them. That's it. That's all you're doing. Coaching constraints are tasks or exercises that do not intervene with the length or strength of a muscle, but help make an individual work towards better positions with a chosen movement. So what's a constraint? When you're constraining somebody, you're decreasing their degrees of freedom. You're decreasing the amount and the ability they're able to go around themselves. So if I kept somebody in two walls that are really tight, this is as much as I can move for a squat. You can't go further forward. You can't let your chest fall because the four walls are around you, right? That's a constraint. So an example of constraints in our world could be try to tap a box at the bottom. You're not going to sit on it because that will change the exercise, but you're going to tap it to figure out how deep you should go. Or another example could be having your hand where you want them to touch at the top of a cable lift, right? So if they're doing their cable lift and they're finishing here, but I want them to finish here, and I keep verbalizing that, but they're not understanding, maybe for me having my hand here is directing them I'm constraining them to guide them towards one way. And then another example, using a PVC behind her back to ask them to do hip hinge. I'm told them hips back, whatever, nothing's happening. Okay, let me use a PVC to guide you. That's a constraint. Or manually putting my hands on them, so they're using that as a constraint also. And then you have coaching interventions are used when cues and constraints become ineffective, leading to the change in length or strength of muscle tissue, aiming to improve movements. So, so if constraints, you're constraining the environment around the client to decrease the degrees of freedom the body's allowed to move, and to increase the success rate and develop body awareness of what something should feel like, right? You're reducing failure by keeping them in a small box, in a small setting. So interventions, if cues and constraints don't work, you have to intervene. An intervention looks different for everyone and everything, and there's more than one right answer for this. Let's take a look at hip hinges, and we're gonna go through that continuum that you guys have on your chart right there. So I have my athlete perform a hip hinge body weight, right? I tell him, my first thing is cueing. Okay, so according to my chart, poor movement, right? I ask him to perform a hip hinge. Is it good movement or poor movement? If he does it great, I'm gonna reinforce that he's doing it great. I'm gonna tell him what he's doing it great. I'm rewarding that he's doing it great, right? So always gotta positively reinforce what they're doing good. If it's a poor movement, the first step is a cue, right? So I'm gonna attempt to fix the issue using a cue. So let's say, hey Sean, I want you to keep your shoulders back, push your hips back, slight bend on your knees, don't let your upper back round, right? Doesn't work, it doesn't fix the issue, but I'm not touching him yet, right? So I tried every cue I can think of, and it doesn't work. However, if it did work, I positively reinforce that cue. So hey, nice job keeping the shoulders back, man. Keep holding them back the whole time. So it's a cycle, right? So let's say we're gonna go with the negative, it didn't work. So I'm gonna attempt to correct the athlete with a constraint. So in this case, the next step would be I get a PVC and I put it behind his back, and I have my hand in my lower back, my hand in my upper back. All right, hey Sean, you're gonna keep the stick attached to your lower back and your neck, and you're gonna go into a hinge. He still doesn't get it, he still rounds his back, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and step away from the wall. These are all constraints. So I'm giving you an example of constraints. Go ahead and step next to the wall, step 2 steps forward. I want you to try to push your butt into the wall. Still doesn't get it, right? So that second constraint didn't work. Let's try another constraint. I just gotta keep thinking about constraints. So, okay, I'm gonna put my hands in his chest, my hands in his upper back, try to keep his back from rounding as he's going down and up. Does he get it? Yes or no? Let's say he doesn't get it. Okay, so we're gonna move into a, an intervention. But if you did get it, would reinforce, hey, nice job, Kim. You see how you're feeling your shoulders back? You're doing it right now. I want you to try this on your own, and we get it. That's a check. Let's reinforce that as a positive pattern, right? But we're going with no because I want to make sure we get to the interventions. So we don't do it. We don't get it. We tried a verbal cue. We tried 25 verbal cues, didn't work. We tried 5 different constraints and didn't work. That all the ones we know. The next step would be an intervention. So an intervention, for example, I'm just giving examples out here that I could think of on a hip hinge. You take the hip hinge away and try to work on cat-cows. Number 1, this is what the first that you can do. You try to get him to recognize shoulder retraction. So you can work on all 4 shoulder retractions, trying to see what this feels like and what this feels like and what I need to feel like this at the bottom, right? You could have them understand the spine and how it should feel. You can have them work on the bench and good mornings and seeing if he's still running his back in good mornings or not. So you're basically breaking down the lifts into different parts, and then you're gonna bring it back together and you're gonna see if it works, right? That's an intervention because you're completely destroying the lift to try to put it back together, all right? We do this a lot. It's just the way they wrote this out analytically makes sense to me, right? I usually cue first from across the room. If I don't get it, then I go over them and I try to figure out what drills I can do to help him understand that lift or what I can do manually to help him, right? So it's basically your first, second, and third barrier. You don't have to do an intervention if the other 2 work. But like I said, the good thing is that if they do good movement, they're always reporting back to reinforce, cue, and reward. So you want to always focus on not just the negative part, what happens if they don't get it. You want to make sure you're understanding why they're doing it right? You want to reinforce good patterns, always. Okay, so that's basically a little bit of more of like the methodology from them. I thought it was really good. I definitely started thinking about more analytically where something falls in the continuum, where something falls in this constraint as an approach to achieving somebody's lack of movement patterns, and also how I can start with mobility before stability, before strength. Obviously, a lot of times it's time, and people here are not, these are made for athletes a lot of times. Obviously, everybody in CrossFit is different, just like our clients, and we have to have our own way of thinking about it. But it's just a thought process that the more thought process we know, the more we can address different issues, right? So now, let's go over some exercises that they use. We have all these exercises printed, so if you want to take more notes, that's fine. I can also send you the slides afterwards. So I'm going to basically be a really good coach. I'm going to try and describe all the exercises to Heather to demonstrate. I'm going to demonstrate it with each one of you. So I'm going to have you watch and then also perform every one of them until we run out of time, essentially. We might not get through all of them, and that's okay. I just want to get as many as we can. So the first one that they try to use is an eccentric setup. And this one's really good. All the cues that they use are, I wrote them down and they're there. And all the pictures that they have, they're also there. Hello.
Hi, how are you? I'm just looking for 2028.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was an A, B, C.
Oh, okay. Are you looking for somebody specific?
Somebody's selling a bike.
Okay, so it's probably next door over here.
Right here,
Yep,
A.
yep.
Thank
No
you.
problem, yep. Okay, so eccentric setup. Let me look it. All right, so number 1 thing you should know is knees, and we talked about this yesterday, is knees and feet on gymnastics are almost always together. Almost always. For anything gymnastics related, any kind of movement, they're almost always together. I'm gonna actually face my screen. Oh no, I don't have to. But knees together, feet together. So Heather's gonna start with her arms forward. You're gonna round her back slightly. And then just slightly, I'm gonna touch and see if her spine's slowly stacking into the floor. All right, I'm gonna have her take about 5 seconds going down. So I'm gonna count down. 5, 4, I'm looking for her knees and her toes to be together. 3, 2, and she's taking a lot longer, so that's good, that's not bad. So slowly stacking the spine. What you see in a lot of people is they are flat until they get to the thoracic. Then they start slowly going down. You're gonna go all the way down. Even further, almost right there, right below. And now you're gonna try to pick it up, all fully. You don't have to come up normal, it's just a negative. So we're just gonna do a negative. Let's do it one more time. So what I'm looking at is her feet, toes being together, knees being together. What happens most of the time is they spread out their knees. You wanna have that compression through here and through here, right? Slow, slow, slow. 1 vertebra at a time, stacking, right? And normally come up however you need to. So I'm not worried about the way up on this one. What I am looking for is for her not to be flat here when she plops, right? So let's go ahead and have Brett try it. And then we'll have Taylor try it. Anybody has any injuries right now? Outside of your wrist, obviously? No? Okay. So, gonna have feet together, knees together.
That's me.
Huh? Or do you?
I got a list.
Where do I start?
Let's go ahead and come up all the way. Okay, so if their feet come off the ground, that is okay for now. That is okay. But it's gonna teach you how to stay really stiff. Remember, we're trying to create tension. We're trying to create tension. The further your feet are forward, the easier it's gonna be. The closer your feet are forward, the harder it's gonna be. Just an FYI. Keep your knees together though. There you go. So here, I want you to make tight fists. I want you to squeeze your tries, and now slowly come down. There you go. There you go. So I'm looking at his knees, and it's gonna be a lot harder to keep knees together. Yep, slow, slow, slow. Exactly. Now you go, do whatever you need to do to come back up. That's it. That's one. Let's do it one more time. So I'm looking at his feet. I'm looking at his knees. He's staying compressed. He's staying hollow. It's one at a time. He's not plopping. The hardest part is when your lower back starts touching the floor. Then you want to just let go. That's when you want to stay compressed. 2 to 4 reps, man, on this. It's simple. Let's go ahead and try it, Taylor. But you see how hard it is to keep your knees together? It's extremely difficult. That's what I found the most difficult, is keeping my knees together. All right, so toes together, knees together. I'm always looking at how to start. Arms straight.
This is a great example of how different people are built.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Like, you look totally, Brett looked totally different than I felt, and you look totally different than Brett looked.
What do you see how differences?
Torso length.
Oh, but that's just limb length.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, it just,
Like I imagine her hips are tight, so we're gonna see what happens here. All right, so we're gonna go really slowly, and and for anything like this, you're gonna do small breaths. You're not gonna take a huge breath. It's gonna be very difficult. We talked about this the other day. All right, slow and control, shoulders forward. All right, we're gonna go slow. Keep your knees together. Perfect, perfect, and keep that compression. So you're compressing your knees and you're compressing your core. Slow, slow, slow. So this shouldn't touch before this does, right? Stay tight. Don't let your rib cage out. There you go. Slower, slower. Nice. And you see how you let go at the bottom? You let go at the bottom, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's okay. So it's more. You want to just make sure you're. And this is gymnastics. Is just being fully aware of your movement, right? If you think about keeping your rib cage really tucked at the end when you're about to fall, it's going to help you a lot more. Right. So slow, slow. She's keeping her knees compressed, and try to really squeeze your groin as much as you possibly can. It almost should be like you're cramping your groin. Much better. Much better. Now, yeah. Now relax. Yeah, you can come up. But you see the difference? It's pretty hard. I started with this and I'm like, oh wow, this is way more difficult than I thought. So what we're cueing on here is feet and knee together, heels close to the butt as much as you can, but if you can't do it, you're gonna start extending, right? It's gonna make it easier. Rib cage is tucked in, so I'm always looking at, if they're here, I'm here. That's it. The problem is most people think around your shoulders, not necessarily. Think about the rib cage tucked in, right? You wanna stiffen up your arms because it helps you keep compressed. If you take out all the tension, what? What's up?
Sorry.
Well, it's number 3, right? The more you do, the harder it gets.
Harder with your feet closer to
That's what I said. That's what I said. You didn't believe me? Only lower back touches the floor on this. So the lower back ranges all the way up to here, right? So you want to make sure you get all this down. What you don't want to do is step down at one at a time, or all together at once. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up, right? All right, next one we got tuck holds, one leg straight hollow holds, and full hollow. So we're gonna get into tuck holds. So tuck holds are a lot harder than I thought, and I can cramp up a lot just in the tuck hold. So we're gonna start with Heather. We're gonna have knees together. We're gonna have feet together, just like we did the sit-up. We're gonna have feet off the ground. So from here, I'm gonna have her heels close to her butt as much as possible. This, right? From here, her lower back's gonna stay on the floor. I'm gonna have her rib cage down and in, and you're gonna try and get your head and your shoulder blades off the floor. So this is really tight. This is actually really good, right? So keep your knees tighter. Yeah, this is the thing that you're gonna see people struggle the most with, is their knees, because they're not used to it. Let's go for another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1, relax. Where do you feel the most? In rib cage, right? I feel the most right here in my sternum. And that's what, when I described to clients before, where do you feel it? You feel it right here in your sternum, and you feel it lower. I need them to feel it up here, because that's exactly where it feels like my diaphragm's gonna kill me. That's what it feels like. This is the easiest variation. They don't obviously talk about lower back problems, but I would say if somebody that has lower back problems, they can still try this. The isolated versions do that before maybe a negative and see how that feels, right? Because you're not doing anything except holding everything really, really tight, right? Then we got a one leg straight hollow. We're gonna do one leg dead straight, one leg bent. You're gonna have your hands by your side. Hands by your side is always gonna be easier than hands here or hands here, right? So regress, progress, progress, most progressed, right? And the same thing, regress, progressed, progressed, right? So we have one leg straight. Oh, and also when we talked about this also, whenever you get yourself into a position, you're gonna start a hollow. What I like to do is I like to start people from being a tight tuck. From being a tight tuck. I don't like to start people from extended because it's very hard to get somebody that's not super strong at gymnastics.
I've been noticing a lot on like flutter kicks on the wall. People go like this.
Yeah, they start right away like that.
They're immediately gonna start an extension. So
Exactly. Get them to tuck their knees in first.
boom, boom. Then they can start playing with this.
And what I started doing a lot with any of the movements that we do that are not gymnastics oriented, let's say flutter kicks in the wall, I now start telling people, try to see, I've been playing around with people, try to see if you can keep your knees together. It's to make it harder or easier. So let's try like a flutter kick, for example. Just against the ground.
My arms where?
You can have your hands on the ground. All right, so then just drop one at a time. All right. Whatever you want to do. What do you want to do? Okay, so now that's not bad. So some people might not even worry about their knees grazing each other. I'm looking up here and see if they're keeping their legs together, right? Some people might just normally keep them a little bit further apart. That's not a bad thing, but now I'm looking to get everything tight together, right? That's what I'm starting to look at. Okay, let's go back to the one leg straight hollow. So you're not starting at tuck hollow. Get one leg straight. So what I'm looking at is her lower back on the ground or it's raising up. It's nice and tight on the lower back, right? Her legs straight, her toes, both toes are pointed, not just the one that's straight. You want both toes pointed. And you're gonna try, just like the sit up, you're gonna try everything stays nice and stiff and tight, and you're pulling into your rib cage, right? So let's try, why don't we try the tuck hollow together? And let's try the one leg straight hollow first, next, okay? Let's go tuck hollow first.
Keep those knees
Yep.
closer to your face. What are you doing?
Exactly, good. So you see how much distance there's here? It's a little bit more than Heather, right? And that's okay. We just have to have a starting point. But if I can, let me see if I can press you. I'm gonna let you go and see if you can stay here.
I got a fat.
No, that's not what it is. That's not what it is. It's compression strength. So actually, it's a great example. It's a great example. And I've done this with people. Go ahead and relax. Go ahead and relax. It's a great example. It's knowing as a coach and when spotting is how much mobility they have. Can somebody get to that point? If somebody is saying, I can't do this because of my mobility, let me find out. It's kind of like the thing we talked about Bob, for example, or John Stack. Can John Stack get further retraction with a row? No, because I know when I pull them into retraction, this is as far as he goes. It's the same idea. So in this, we can actually do it on a hollow hold. Go ahead and get yourself together in a tuck hold. Okay, so Brett himself alone can only get to this point. But if I push him in tight, he can get together further.
Yeah.
So relax. That's not mobility issue. That's a lack of compression strength. That's all right, but now we know, right? He can get there. 1 second, let me check her first. So you're already pretty tight, but you can probably get a couple more inches. Yeah, you can get there. Now try to stay there. Now try to stay there by yourself.
Okay.
That's really good.
That's pretty good. You stay there. You stay there. A lot better. What did you guys feel when I pressed you in? Right there. Your mid back? Okay, so you might be a stretching problem. He felt his right here.
I mean, that was working before you came over. When you pushed me, I felt my mid back.
You felt your mid back, so you might just be really, really tight, right? So now let's try to hold it together your own way. So that's one way you can address it is you can put him there and ask him to see if they can hold it for 5 seconds there. Right? So hold it together for 5. Once I put you in that place, try not to fall away from it, right? So I'm gonna put you in that place, I'm gonna hold it for 5 seconds. You're gonna go first.
Right, so
this is just a tuck hold. Ready, set, in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, relax, good. Yes, right there is where you should feel it. Right there, exactly where you're pointing. Knees together. First off, yep, point your toes.
I'm already
Ready,
burning.
3, 2, in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, relax. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. It's a different way of thinking about core. Do you want to try?
Let's see if I can get more.
Okay, so stay tight. I mean, you're already touching your face. Like,
Where do I gonna?
no, that's it. You can only go that far. All right, ready? Knees together. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's insane. Relax. That's really good, though. We're gonna talk about the next one after, but there's one that we're gonna do rolling the person around, and they shouldn't be able to extend doing that, right? So that's a harder version. All right, let's go into a one leg straight hollow. So let's start tuck and then move one leg out. Let's go one at a time. Go ahead first. So get yourself into a tuck position. Yep. From here, extend one leg. Good. So that's it. Squeeze that quad straight. So I'm always looking at squeeze straight. Your toes are both pointed. There's no relaxation. There's no slack there. And 3, 2, 1, relax. Good. Nice job. Nice job. But notice that you have to squeeze your quad straight. You have to squeeze your quad, and that makes you squeeze your butt too. Okay? Let's go ahead and try whichever leg you want. Stand and tuck. There you go, one leg straight. All right, let's go 1, 2. So I'm looking at squeeze, nice and stiff, nice and stiff. If I move around, everything moves together, right? And relax. Good. Right? Everything moves together because there's no slack. Try one more time, but try to relax everything. All right?
Try to act like a
Try to act like you're just not doing anything. You're gonna see how you don't move. All right, just relax. Everything not tension. You see how everything moves?
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're doing exactly what somebody else would do. That's the difference. Everything's tight, it's together. Everything's relaxed, you don't move anywhere. Right? You want to stay tight, increase all the tension out there. All right, so the hardest one is the full hollow. This lady's freaking, like that's pretty hollow. I can't even do that. So both legs are going to be straight out the floor, lower back's on the floor, shoulder blades are out the floor, and you're looking for length and tension. So at no point, if I touch your shoulders, your legs should move towards me because they're swinging together. It's like a clock. It's a straight line, right? You guys want to try it?
Yeah.
Let's give it a shot. Okay, so you're going to start yourself into a hollow tuck, knees bent. All right, so you're going to always start, I always tell clients to start, everything's pointed up. From here, arms go out first. That's the easiest variation. So in itself, I also have other variations I forgot to talk about. You have, my bad. You have legs straight, hands by your side. You can do that variation too. That's a regression from this one, right? You can have legs straddle, hands by side. So you can be like this, and it's not compressed together. So it's a lot easier to have legs straddle like that, or even overhead too. It's still easier than keeping legs together, right? You can also have knees tucked and hands overhead, right? That's an even easier variation. Anything leg straight is gonna be harder than arm straight, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and get started again, my bad. So start from a tuck, arms straight behind you, and legs overhead in front of you. So from here, I'm looking at toes are pointed, yep. Oh wait, no. You okay? You should have just rotated. Yo, I don't know why you twisted over. That's the way you just went? You okay? What didn't even fall on my foot?
Just my knees don't do. I'm just a very fragile human.
Don't mess with my knees, Roger.
No, I'm not trying to mess with anybody's knees. I was trying to do this. Yeah, exactly.
Sticky, that's the problem.
Oh, okay. So there you go. So I'm looking at, this is stiff, right? This is hollow. There wasn't any arching. Right now there's arching. There wasn't any arching before, and their shoulder blades are off. Everybody's hollow might look a little bit different. What you're thinking about is this. That's all you have to think about. Remember, posterior pelvic tilt and this. Anterior, posterior. Somebody's butt should be freaking on fire. When I'm doing this, my butt's on fire. That's on my abs too. Let's try it out. Overhead. So you're gonna get yourself into a tuck. There you go. Hands lightly overhead as far as you can without putting your hands. Yep, so I'm always looking at their back and now slowly trying to straighten out your legs. Knee crack. That's okay. There you go. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Everything's tight, tight. And relax. It's okay to do 5 seconds increments. Just hold it for 2 to 5 seconds. Just get better at holding that variation the right way, right? That's what you have to tell people, and that's maybe we have to program, if we're gonna program something like this. Problem is, this kind of thing is very easy to do wrong if you don't know what you're looking at as a coach, and if you don't understand it as a client, right? All right, so knees together, hands overhead. Whenever you're ready, you're gonna stick your legs out. And there shouldn't be any arching. Your legs are freaking stiff, and look at that, we're flying, relax. Perfect, perfect, not that, right? So that's good, you know how to create stiffness, that's perfect. Now what we need to do is make sure clients can create stiffness the same way, right? So now we have a breaking the egg drill. So essentially it's just like a tuck hollow, but you're maintaining tension the whole way. You wanna try it? So you're starting in a hollow tuck. You're doing everything the same. You should not open up your knees the way you're doing it. Nothing is let go. Toes are tight, knees are tight. Everything is nice and stiff. And I'm just gonna do this. And she should move, but not anticipate what I'm doing, right? So she's moving with her body. What it would look like wrong would be relax for a second. What would look like wrong, try not to create stiffness from here. Right? Relax your legs. This is what it's gonna look like. She's gonna try and pull herself up as I'm pulling up. That delay, there shouldn't be any delay. That's when it looks like wrong. If you stay stiff, everything's together, you hold it stiff. The worst part is when a client keeps following you. So this was a little bit more advanced, we probably wouldn't do it a lot, but it's just something that you should know what to look for, correct? So you want to maintain tension in a hollow tuck position, and the partner rocks you up and down or left and right, right? You want to try it, Tay? Let's try it out. So you're going to stay tucked, knees tight, toes pointed. Yeah, so no delay, no delay. No delay at all. All right, now try to relax a little bit. And let's see, there's delay. So you see how there's delay there? Mm-hmm. It's a lot, especially for somebody that's not used to doing it, there's gonna be delay after a certain number of times you're doing it. So maybe keep it at 5 to 10 seconds when you're starting out. Develop that isometric strength as much as you can until you get to 20 to 30 seconds of good, then move on to the next progression, right? Let's try it out. Just want to try and see if you guys can feel the difference. There you go. So stay, try it, point your toes, There you go. Always point your toes, don't let them flex their toes. So a little delay there, You're anticipating, relax. So just compression. It's different from doing a plank. It's different from doing anything else. Compression, and it's a different type of strength, guys. I'm telling you, like, it's way different than I've been used to when I started doing this. And then you have hollow rocks, right? In CrossFit, they do a lot of hollow rocks. A lot of people doing it wrong. I've seen them doing it wrong in the class even when we're taking it. The regression for a hollow rock is the same thing that we were doing before. It's a tuck, right? Except they don't have their hands here, they have their hands here. So like I said, you gotta know the hand position regressions and the leg position regressions. So regress, progress, progress. Regress, progressed, right? So knowing that, you can make your own design, right? So let's try to do, if we're doing a hollow tuck, that will almost be like, what we call that? We call it a Rocky naps, right? So that's what we call it differently than that. But this one, we're gonna try this variation, the left. So we're gonna do a tuck, straighten out one leg, but keeping your legs by the side, and she's gonna make herself go back and forth. But there shouldn't be any delay. You see what I'm saying? That's good. That's a little delay there. That's not so much better. So she should be one unit. Not try to delay it. Exactly. That's not a hollow rock. You see the difference? She's she's giving slack with her. There's something in the midsection giving slack. That's what we're gonna be able to find out and figure out from far away. That's not a hollow rock. You're just doing a setup. You're just doing little crunches. That's what you're doing. Let's try it out. At this point, this is on you guys. I'm just trying to get you to understand what that feels like. All right. Whenever you're ready, you're gonna start trying to rock. Exactly. And the smaller the rocks, the better. You don't wanna go for big rocks, so that's great. Exactly, so there's no delay there, so that's solid, relax. It's hard to breathe, right? Very hard to breathe, small little breaths. You have to be like,
yeah, what'd you call it? Micro?
like Pilates, micro breaths. It's like you either exhale or you inhale or you just try to exhale. I actually try to exhale only out.
I feel like I'm just holding my breath.
You can hold your breath, but eventually when you get better and better, you have to figure out how to breathe at it. There you go. You have to concentrate a lot on breathing, right? Let's try it, Brett. All right, so knee bent. Yep, exactly. Squeeze that quad. There you go. Yeah. So now you see this is the perfect example. He has a lot of slack somewhere. You feel the slack? Your legs are not moving, but your upper body's moving. You feel that? So let me see if I can get you to do it with me. Okay, so this is, I don't know. It might be through here, and that's okay. So what we can do is maybe try, and this is a great example. I don't know. This is what I was taught, right? So let's try a tuck regression. Yeah, let's try a tuck regression, hands by your side, but not hands in front of you, just by your side. Yep, and now let's try and see if you can. That's better. That's a lot better, right? So I would tell him, let's work on this for a while. Yes, perfect. Let's work on this for a while, get really good at this, get down to 20 seconds, and then we'll try legs straight. The problem is for anybody who has heavy-ass legs or long-ass levers, it makes it harder. The taller people are way worse than gymnastics than shorter people. The levers are just way longer, right? So if you're taller, unfortunately, it's gonna be a lot harder. Hardest one would be straight tuck, right? That's the epitome of hollow rock. Right? Very difficult to do. There's plenty of other variations that we can do that we can make sure that they get right. That's a great variation. This would be a second great variation. I wouldn't necessarily have people do this one because a lot of people can't do it right. If we can't do it right, I think most people can do it right? At least for our clientele. All right, and then we have the opposite. We don't do a lot of Supermans or supported arches, but it's definitely something that you have to be comfortable with in gymnastics to be able to do. They do this variation where it's supported arch. You have your hands on their ankles or feet. They're not letting them lift, and all you're doing is you're keeping tension through your shoulders. You're reaching up, you keep looking down, neutral spine, and you're arching up and back down while keeping your rib cage down. You don't want to just do this, right? So there's a difference between doing this and doing this, right? I'm trying to keep my rib cage down. I'm still squeezing my abs as I'm doing this. And I feel it all in my thoracic spine, honestly. Not in my lower back. What? Yeah, I got you. And then they're doing a full arch. So you let go of the hands, and you're gonna go into just a full arch. This is not a Superman. You see how normal? He looks in a straight line, almost. He's not super arched. But because his rib cage is down, it's very hard to extend. Like, you can't really, think about a bridge, right? If I'm gonna go backwards, I can't really pull my rib cage down once I'm in the bridge. It's impossible. But in this, you can, right? Let's try a supported arch. So, tension, once again. So this doesn't work if your legs are not tensed up. Legs together, you're gonna try to touch your toes always for everything. All right, so from here, you're gonna go ahead and keep looking down. You're gonna reach your hands as far as you can overhead, and then try to lift yourself off the ground, keeping your rib cage down though, squeezing your core. So you see how her hands widen out? That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just her body's mechanism of trying to get it easier. Like I said, relax. Another way we can do this, hands by your side, just like the hollow hold, right? We can regress it a little bit easier. So let's try to go ahead and when you're ready, you're gonna tighten up and then come up. Easier or harder?
Easier.
Easier, right? Exactly. So there's another way of doing it, right? It's the same.
Keeping your ankles together.
Yeah, exactly. That is the hardest part. And then, you know what? Try it yourself now. Now try it yourself. You're gonna go into a full arch, and and then you're gonna try and keep your legs together as you're coming up. Rib cage down though. So you see how and she has really thick thighs, but you see how her ankles are trying to come apart. It's very hard. For me, it's the same way because I'm bow-legged. So I'm trying to pull them together, and they just naturally come apart, right? Where do you feel it though?
Here, my butt, my hamstring.
Never felt it in your back, right?
No.
Perfect, exactly, that's the idea. You want to build the lower back, but in the ability of getting it related back to the rest of the stuff, right? So why don't we try the supported arch, and then we'll try the hollow arch by yourself. Let's go ahead and we'll go first. All right, so legs together. Let's go ahead and why don't we start up regressed. So hands by your side, exactly. So now slowly, you're gonna pull your rib cage in as you're coming up. Looking down, that's beautiful. So everything is nice and straight, that's excellent. Relax. Now let's try hands overhead and tell me how more difficult it is. 3, 2, 1, up.
Yeah, it's a lot harder.
Yep, and squeeze everything tight together. That's excellent. Relax. Where'd you feel it?
Yeah, definitely my core here, hamstrings, butt.
More than lower back, right?
Yeah.
I would say for myself, I felt the lower back the last thing. Like it's very minor, and it's like the last thing. And it's weird because normally in Superman's, I'm used to feeling my lower back. And then it doesn't happen. All right, let's try this one. Ooh, shit.
Did I hit it?
It's okay, go ahead. Go for it. All right, 3.
I honestly don't get this one.
You don't get it? You'll get it once you start it.
Yeah,
3,
once you feel
2, 1, go. Exactly, so rib cage is down and relax. So now,
I actually am lifting my rib cage.
well, you're gonna have to lift.
From here
But you're not extending.
You have to lift your rib cage, but you have to keep. Yeah, you have to lift your rib cage off the ground, but you have to keep it tucked in.
Tight.
Yep.
And then I'm lifting.
Yep. That's it. And relax. You don't feel your lower back though, right?
I actually do.
A lot?
I feel this side though. Only this side.
Okay. Try it overhead and tell me if you're feeling more or less. Should be harder, but hopefully you don't feel it more. 3. Damn, you can't relax. Okay.
Hold on. I'm having a hard time.
That's okay. So that's actually, we're gonna go over that drill too, but we might not have time. 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
I'm just feeling my back.
Okay. So you're really
I
tight.
don't understand. I
Well,
don't
you
think
look
I'm
like you're
understanding.
extending.
You're extended through your back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're extended through your back to be able to get there. So, okay, we can skip one real quick. There's a drill here that they like to do, and this is a drill in the wall, hollow wall drill, right? So this is a great way of telling somebody how to start a pull-up position. So what you would do is you start against the wall, you have both hands on the wall, reaching forward. I'm gonna have my feet together. I'm trying to create that position again by, oh damn, I'm cramping. By pulling your rib cage in, right? You're pulling your rib cage in as much as you can. And that's how you're gonna start this position. Pulling your rib cage in as much as you can. It's funny because
Not doing when
You're extending through your rib cage. You're immediately extending through your rib cage. So you just have a hard time contracting your rib cage. Yeah. The problem is I don't know regressions, right? That's what we're here. That's why I'm describing this to you, because you're not the only ones going to feel this. Imagine if you feel this, how many other people are going to feel it, right? So to me, what we could do is, what happens if we put you in a box and did it off a box?
Oh, wait.
But you see how your legs are wide? And that's okay. That's a regression. You're good. You can go legs wide so you can get it done and understand how it feels
I'm
first.
thinking about my pelvis, not my ribs. That's what's happening.
What do you mean?
Meaning I'm trying to move my pelvis, I'm not moving my ribs. So I'm like,
Yeah, that's you tucking your pelvis.
That's
That's you
tucking
tucking your rib cage. Now get your head up.
over here.
There you go. Exactly like that. Exactly like that. That looks really
Okay,
good.
that's better, but that's really hard for me to differentiate between my pelvis and my ribs.
And
not
if
my
it's,
stomach.
imagine if it's hard for you.
Yeah, everything about it.
Yeah, a lot of people are hard, right? So the thing is, we have to get better at just understanding what it looks like to do it right and wrong, and then being able to regress it further. So go ahead and legs extended, or to the sides, to the sides, to the sides. And legs out.
I have to really think about this.
Legs out wide.
Oh,
Try that. Tell me if you feel better that way.
wait. We just had it.
There you go, exactly.
Okay, I got it.
There you go. And you don't feel your back right now, right?
Nope.
Good. So we did the most regress version we could. Another one that I think we might be able to do, and I haven't thought about it before, is you can bend your knees. Try to bend your knees.
This takes so much thought. Bend my knees like this?
Yeah, yeah. So you take the slack weight into your knees only.
Wait, I lost it.
I don't know if it's harder or easier though. I just came up with it now.
No.
Okay. So yeah. I mean, for me, leg straight is easier in some things because it helps me keep maintain form.
Yeah, legs bent.
So we won't be able to go over all of this. One big thing is I want to point out a couple of things: an L sit and a virtuous L sit, right? So an L sit here is just relaxed core. You're here. A virtual L sit is the one I've been trying to get you guys to do with clients, whereas this is normal, and this is the one they want you to do, right? It's all the compression right through here. That's all I want you to feel. So that's the L sit that is virtuous, and obviously they're doing a tuck version, right? So they're doing this way because it's easier. Then they start with one leg straight, and eventually they go with both legs straight, right? So number one is getting as much time, and this is isometric stuff, getting as much time, and they also have they have it bent arm strength and straight arm strength, right? So a lot of people don't have straight arm strength because we're used to doing reps. A lot of gymnastics is straight arm. So everything's toes pointed. One thing I want you to take away is this position, right? Everything's tight together, tension, always create tension. The closer everything is, the harder it is, the further everything is, the easier it is. Or the harder it could be too. Real quick thing about the grip. So poor grip would be here on the pull-up formation for gymnastics. Stronger grip would be this way, and then you have this grip, which is almost, what do they call it? They call it an active grip. So if I'm doing pull-ups, I now started trying to do active grip the whole time. My knuckles are facing forward. This was me before, and this is somebody else. This is no grip. Huh? This is suicide grip, technically. Yeah. This is suicide grip, which we don't like to do, right? This is a stronger grip, but for gymnastics, you want to have this like cocked wrist grip. A lot of forearms, guys. A lot of strength on your forearms and grip, for sure. It helps you out a lot. Start just trying to hang like that. And another drill that I started doing is just hanging in that same scenario, but from the top, right? Because it teaches you that form. You can do it with you can grab onto tennis balls and do it that way too. That's easier. You can do it assisted also to understand how it feels. If you feel a wrist, don't do it. Yeah, try it out, Ren. So that's this way. Yep, exactly.
I don't even get in that position.
It's hard.
Holy cow, it's forearms.
It's hard, a lot of forearms, exactly. And you gotta try to let your arms extend. So it's easier this way, a lot harder when they're extended. Another way to do this is start slowly decreasing, like we have somebody do it assisted with the box, you do the same way. You teach yourself how to do it assisted with the box, assisted with the box, assisted with the box, arms straight, then slowly take one leg out, assisted with the box, both legs out, just hanging, right? And then we Can talk about this much later, but we have kind of like a knees to bar, what we're looking for. All the stuff's on the sheets. We have what a pull-up should look for, that is hollow, right? We have an assisted version. They do a toe spot on the ground. So we always do that at barbell chin up. But the way they're doing is they're assisting their toes. So there's always something connection to the ground. If they're below you, it's a lot easier to keep that tension than they're in front of you.
I feel like that'd be easier to teach.
It could be. We did it over there, and I was like, whoa, I never felt this before. But it has to be somebody that has no pain in their ankles or knees because it puts you in a very weird position.
But yeah, it would be, because people always like to bring like.
For sure, for sure. I started thinking about it, but somebody has really tight ankles, it might hurt them because it's too much of a stretch. They're only feeling their ankles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Liz P wouldn't be able to do this, for example.
Yeah.
You have a virtuous V-up where your hands don't come in front of you. Your hands stay by your side. And this is what we're talking about, for example, in the lateral V-up that I always try to tell you, your hands stay by your side. On a virtuous V-up, fuck, I can't do it, I'm not ready. On a virtuous V-up, your hands stay here at the top and bottom. They don't go here. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder. You have yourself a push-up that is hollow position. A push-up in a hollow position. You see how he has his feet straight? It looks exactly like he was facing supine. He was facing up in a hollow body. But now he's in a push-up position. He's going down. His shoulders are going to slightly round forward. That's going to happen in a hollow body push-up, right? But a regression would be a box, right, to teach somebody that. But look at his toes. What I'm saying is you want to lean forward into it. That way your legs can stay as stiff as possible and straight.
So you're feeling your shoulders a little more too, right?
You feeling what?
Shoulders.
I feel in my shoulders a lot more and triceps, yeah. Yeah. And another thing for this is also grip the floor and anything push-ups like this rather than this. Force everybody to grip their fingers onto the floor. Exactly. Exactly. That's a nice hollow push-up. That's a nice hollow push-up. Harder, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to extend at the top your shoulder blades. That's the biggest one you want to make sure to do. You have gymnastic squat. It's everything tight together, right? You have, and then you're getting yourself, these are progressions to get into a pistol squat that they use. So you have this type of squat where you're here. So you start here, then you go here, and then you go here into a pistol squat. Then you go into a full pistol squat. And then the other one was really cool. The last one is neural tension. So you're going down, you go down toes pointed. As soon as you hit the bottom, come up, you're gonna extend the toe. And it's helping you neurologically administer that kind of like momentum through the toes and the muscle stretch reflex. And then it also goes into a tuck headstand, a non-virtuous headstand, and a virtuous headstand. Notice that the difference between a non-virtuous and virtuous is the position of the body. You wouldn't see us doing a hollow body hold like that, right? It would be more like in a hollow shape. Same thing. This is just a normal headstand, and this is more a gymnastics headstand. Because everything here is tucked in. Ribcage is tucked in, which is going to pull your toes forward.
It's very hard to spin it. I can see it, but it's very
Well, she's just standing, she's literally straight up, and then she's literally pointing her toes forward. So right here, her feet, her toes are on top of her nose.
Yeah.
Right here, her toes are on top of her elbows. Right? Always with a tripod position. And you can see in this guy, he's in a tripod position, but everything's still tight, and on all three, the toes are pointed. Correct? And then a broken position of a handstand and a perfect handstand, what it looks like and what it doesn't look like, right? So you want to make sure you're in a straight line, and everything relates, and that's why I said the hollow is the main priority. If you can get yourself into a hollow, you can start working on other skills. But in gymnastics, that's the number one thing you got to learn is arch and hollow shapes. Shapes. It comes down to shapes. Being able to get into that shape by squeezing and keeping tension, right? What warm-ups they used, we can go over it one day in our workouts. It's not that as easy. They use overhead lunges, and they tell you to look for, can you keep, because they do a quick mobility assessment on you. They're group classes in CrossFit. So what they do is use this warm-up to address the class and see who's gonna lack in something. So they do an overhead squat, or overhead lunge. What they're looking for is elbows bent or elbows straight on people. You're gonna coach them elbows straight, but if they're bending, they just might not have the mobility. They're keeping the elbows by their side of their elbows, their ears or not. Are they arching their back when they get to the bottom? Because if they're arching their back, they're gonna have an arch back in a handstand most likely. Are they stable in their knees, or are they just wobbling? Are they going out or in? What are we looking at? And then locked elbows. Can they lock their elbows, or are their elbows bent? So that's why I've been starting to train a lot more elbows locked in almost everything I try to do now.
That is bad for some people.
That is bad for some people. Hypermobility people, you don't want to teach that. You want to find that place that is almost locked out, but it's still slight bend, because they're going to be hypermobile and go the opposite way if they try to lock out. Avarice rotations, you're going to be here, going out to the side and back. It's almost like an airplane. That's, yeah, that's more like a gymnastics term.
The mechanical bear crawl is really difficult.
Mechanical bear crawl is almost like an inchworm, but you're walking yourself like this. But legs straight, arms straight.
The mechanical bear crawl is a
Oh, that's
bear
just
crawl.
just
You
this.
bend your elbows.
Yeah,
really
it's
difficult.
this. So everything in gymnastics is elbow straight, right? Elbow straight the whole time. I wouldn't do it, Taylor.
So don't hurt
No?
your wrist.
No.
Don't hurt the wrist.
Well, you can do it a lot easier when your hands are like that. You can do. It's a lot harder to do it when your hands are like this. Keep your elbow straight. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's okay. Inchworms to push-ups, hollow, another one. And in this inchworms to push-ups variation, you're looking at their toes pointed as they're going into their push-up, like we were talking about the hollow push-up, right? You don't want to do a normal push-up. And gymnastics bear crawl is arms straight and legs straight. So essentially like a half
The middle of
inchworm.
an inchworm.
You're stuck in the middle of an inchworm going forward. Everything stays straight, legs and arms. You see what I'm saying? You want to show it? Yeah, exactly. So everything stays stiff, tense, and hollow, right? Questions, comments? I know we didn't get through everything. If you want to go over it, we can definitely go over it another time. There's a lot more things than this that I wanted to go over, but we wouldn't have time for it anyways.
Can you email the slides?
Absolutely, man, for sure. Any quick questions, though, before we finish?